Hello, this is Tony Herrera, field correspondent for the Endgame series of podcasts. This episode will cover a strategic piece of the Endgame puzzle, namely the seemingly endless supply of undocumented immigrant labor that continues to make its way across our borders. How is this possible? Why would people risk their lives on this perilous journey to cross our borders not only from our immediate southern neighbor Mexico, but from Central and South America and the world over? Let's begin. Ironically, people who migrate here come from countries that for the most part are rich in resources and raw materials. You would think that if a country is wealthy by definition, its people would not want to leave to come here. This being the case, what causes people to leave their homelands? First, extreme poverty. Second, extreme violence and persecution. Third, corruption and political upheaval. Fourth, damage to their economies through external forces. Fifth, destruction of the local ecologies, making life unsustainable as a result of foreign ventures. Most poor countries in Latin America had their economic and political development stifled by the intervention of more powerful countries like the United States. Using our military and banks to gain footholds and ultimately control of entire countries, we were able to dictate their economies to suit the needs of powerful corporations to produce their products at slave wages and ensure stability at the point of a gun to protect their investments. Any efforts on the part of these countries to move beyond their captive situations were met with violence, military interventions, or economic stranglehold. The conditions under which these populations have had to live for generations created a constant flight to freer markets and to where life offered hope across our borders. These historical chain of events have lined up as a perfect setup. On the one hand, we, as an industrialized labor-needy country, requires immigrant workers. On the other, millions of people are being forced to move from their countries in search of a livelihood. It's move or face starvation or be killed via state or criminal violence. We have now the creation of a global mobile workforce to serve our needs. The people crossing our borders legally and illegally, for the vast majority, are escaping a life with no future in their home countries for the reasons I laid out. It is leave or die of starvation or at the hands of death squads or criminal elements. They have no choice. In this context, they are not criminals as they are portrayed and cannot and should not be judged as such. The headlines of today sensationalizing the policy of separating the children from their parents is yet another form of intervention and disregard for the lives of people whose countries have suffered by our hands. The blame cannot be shifted anywhere else. History and facts speak for themselves. This is totally immoral and runs completely counter to the principles and ideals under which our country was founded. We are talking about mothers who knowingly are risking losing their children in our hands rather than to continue to live where the odds of survival are bleak at best. The entire discussion and debate over the presence of undocumented workers inside our borders and those that have yet to come is wrong. This is not a matter of securing our borders. It is a matter of undoing the harm that has been done to countries whose people have done no harm to us. On the contrary, the discussion must be broadened to take into account the entire scenario. Instead of decrying the hordes trying to cross into our country, we should be discussing how we can help those countries reverse the damage done to them over several generations. Like cleaning up after an oil spill that damages the fragile ecology of a region, we too must acknowledge our role in creating the situation faced by millions whose only desire is to live a decent life in peace and ensure the future of their children. We could and should grant political asylum to those fleeing the violence back in their home countries. At least allow them a chance to make their case before an immigration judge and have due process and take into account all the things I've mentioned here. These are not criminals, and if we, knowing the facts, choose to judge them and worse, keep quiet about it and fail to take action, we are complicit and will be judged by history accordingly. It is up to each of us to take a stand and demand that debate of illegal immigration be opened up to cover these realities. It is the right and moral thing to do. This is Tony Herrera signing off. Until next time.